It's a time for the package from China. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. So in today's video we are going to take a close look at the Powkiddy, the X39 Pro Edition. And I've reviewed the normal version. I was really intrigued. What are we going to see inside of the device and how will it be with the overall performance? So first of all, this thing comes with a 4.5-inch IPS display with a resolution of 854 by 480. It's quite strange to be honest. And it has the option for expansion of the SD card, but it says here all the way up to 64, so that is not a lot. We have Type-C charging connection, and we have the option to add ourselves controllers. So it's quite interesting, but let's see what are we actually going to getting with the performance. So first of all, there are all kinds of different colors out there, and I went for the purple version or the translucent purple. Oh man, I am so addicted to these colors. I love it. I think also the retro version is cool, or just translucent. It's not to the point that it's completely see-through, but it is having this overall, let's say, nice look. It also gives me some GameCube vibe somehow. But later on, let's talk about what we're going to overall getting with this device, what it also is with the joysticks and the analog stick. It comes with a cable, the Type-C cable, and a long nice one, and then of course the toilet paper manual deluxe, the X39 Pro. Comes in Asian language, and here we're having the English part of it with some important settings, installing games, basic functions and etc. Low battery and how the video output works. But as one of those key features, I think it's pretty damn cool, because when the video audio or the audio video out, we do have an HDMI connection nowadays. Alright, so when it comes to the form factor itself, I am a big fan of the landscape models because they are very comfortable. Unfortunate, the D-pad is placed left bottom part, and the overall controls are not bad at all. First of all, let's talk about the touch itself. So when it comes to the form factor of the D-pad, it has a slightly curve to it, and I must say that I find it always very pleasant. It doesn't have a very long travel, but it does have a very nice touch. But how does it work with finding games? I can tell you that I really need to get used to the D-pad, because I cannot get any move out whatsoever. But how about the Contra game, if you need to shoot in certain directions? But the travel is quite strange in my opinion. It seems to be working quite well. Beside the D-pad, we're having one single joystick. It's similar to Nintendo Switch, but when it comes to the travel, I must say it does have a nice travel to it, and also a nice wiggle without any click. Wiggle, wiggle joystick, not in a bad way. Over here we're going to have micro switches, a menu, select and start, a great position, and then the A, B, X, Y buttons. Not the biggest fan of these tiny things. The travel is not bad at all, but I do get some Nintendo Switch feeling with these things, and I'm just gonna be honest, I'm not happy about them. But what are we finding on top? The Type-C for charging, the HDMI out, and headphone jack out, physical volume control, the on and off switch, and we're going to have all of the shoulder buttons over here. The shoulder buttons, not a big fan of those, simply because if you're just going to play, they are easy to touch, but if they will rise the other ones over here, let's say they're rising the R2 and the L2 on a different, let's say, height, it's going to be way easier to press. Now we need to bend my fingers a little bit more. Maybe I'm a little bit too nitpicky about it, but some, let's say, handhelds had this configuration and it is so much more comfortable. At the bottom we're going to get two USB connections, and we can use these for controllers. And of course the SD card, and they're not using a brandless model or brandless card. They're having this weird brand called CMP or Y, whatever. No idea what it is called, but it is even better than having no brand at all. But let's take a close look at the menu itself. It does have a little bit of a, let's say, a Pandora's box vibe going on. In other words, it's a very easy to use navigation menu. So pressing the shoulder buttons will bring you to the different type of lists. For example, here I'm just the one huge gigantic list of all kinds of stuff on here. Next up, we're having the type or the platforms, and there's quite a lot of different stuff that we can actually play with this. But what I find a little bit of a bummer that we don't have any, let's say, Dreamcast or other things going on here. So it's quite limited when you're looking at the price point and all the competition of handhelds. History, favorites, we're having the search, and with the search there seems to be we can even switch between English and Chinese. Here we can search for the game. So let's choose something with Sonic, or let's put in SON and just press search. Of course, there was a lot of stuff on like a device that you can add with SON, but it doesn't matter. I just wanted to check out what is going to be happening when searching something. And with the file system, here we can go into the file system or the SD card. We can open up video files if you want to, but if it's going to be booting up, it's not going to be a very nice experience. We can watch some pretty pictures if you want to, but that's only it. Music, we're having the testing music over here, an audio player. Oh yeah, heat up, yeah! But next up, let's take a close look at some games and how is the overall emulation performance. Pressing the menu button within the game, you having the special menu where you can restart, return to the game, save and quick load. And the settings where we're having sound output that can be turned on and off, such a weird thing. Keyboard mapping, joystick, and that's it. There's no aspect ratio, so that's a little bit of a bummer in my opinion. But let's take a close look at the specifications. It still comes with the CPU, the ATM 7051, that is a quad-core ARM Cortex A9 running on 900 MHz. The RAM, it's still 128MB DDR or LPDDR2 with a display of 4x5 inches IPS. A battery of 3000 mAh and it will give you around like 5 or 6 hours of game time. But let's start off with some NES and just see how it actually runs on here. With the NES, we're just going to get two buttons that we're going to need. The other ones will be turbo function. But the A and B have been switched, so I really need to get used to this particular setup. But no problem whatsoever, this game runs just good enough. Let's move on to the Game Boy Advance, and with this particular game we are needing the shoulder buttons, and I must say that I really need to get used to the form factor of this, but the overall performance also of Game Boy Advance is pretty damn good. Another game I just wanted to check out is the Super NES Desert Strike, but so far the overall emulation performance is pretty good for the old school stuff. And you will be surprised how many devices will still have problems. You did hear some crackling noise when it comes to the audio, but there we have it. So the audio emulation is not perfect. Personally, I'm a D-pad guy, so I always try to play like this. Let's move on to the 16-bit era of the Sega time with the Mega Drive or Genesis. But with this system I don't notice any of those weird glitching going on. The buttons have been mapped correctly. No problems with the audio, and overall it sounds really great. It also plays nice. Then let's move on to some arcade gaming, and I must say that when it comes to arcade, the old school stuff, the basic stuff will run just fine on here. If you want to have a Killer Instinct or Tekken Name, I just want to mention that this will not run at all on a cheaper device like this. But let's move on to some Neo Geo arcade gaming. We can also test the D-pad out. But when it comes to the D-pad, I really need to get used to this. Oh, no, that's not great at all. It can be a personal handicap, but and this is absolutely the part where you have at least an aspect ratio option, because playing some Game Boy on this looks absolutely horrible with this crazy stretch out image. But the emulation itself is just fine. This is absolutely not the way how you want to play. Well, let's move on to the PlayStation, and when it comes to PlayStation overall emulation performance, it's pretty good. I do hear some struggles when it comes to the overall audio quality, so that's a little bit of a bummer. But just to keep continuing testing out some old school games, and Twisted Metal, oh man. Revisiting this game is so much fun. It's a very long time that I've played it on my PlayStation. But one of the major problems I've noticed when it comes to these PlayStation things, that freaking annoying that they're not adding the music to it. And they're just doing this to save up some freaking space. But here comes a quite annoying issue, so if you just want to play a game like this, you really need to get used to the shoulder buttons. A part I can personally not live with. Inside the box, the cable is not included. So what you need to buy is a mini to HDMI expansion or converter, or you can just get yourself a cable that is ready to go. But what I love about this thing, then you can just plug it in and it works out of the box. But the only thing I did notice is the signal output. The signal output is a little bit of a disappointment. Simply when you're looking at the menu, it looks kind of pixelated, and I don't know if the camera is going to be picking it up, but the overall quality, it's not the best I have seen. But also the audio is completely messed up when it comes to the HDMI output. So it's kind of weird, to be honest, where the audio of the Sega Mega Drives were normal. But let's plug it out. There we go. And this is not the way how I want to experience the Mega Drive. Let's move on to the TV out again. And again, still the signal output is very low resolution. But let's move into the Super Famicom or Super NES. And the same audio issue that I mentioned before with this is that I've tried out. It is also with different games and also through the TV out. But opening it up, it's quite easy in my opinion. So first of all, we need to remove the 4 tiny screws at the back. Next thing that we need to do is getting a prior tool. You can get these things really cheap on AliExpress, and let's just click it open and show you what you're all having, what for kind of fancy stuff. And this is just really cool to see how translucent it actually is. It's not a lot, but good enough. So here we're having this very strange looking battery. Let's see, it's quite difficult to read, but I think this is a 3000 milliamp battery in the inside. So this speaker, there is no way of upgrading it. It's just purely made for one speaker. Everything has been soldered straight into the main board. Then the battery, and I find always a little bit of a bummer if they also did this with the battery. It's so much easier if you can just unplug it. You don't need to do any soldering. Replacing the LCD is also possible. They didn't solder it, that we have seen with cheaper devices back in the day. But that's actually the thing what you're going to see and having in the inside. I think there's no way of getting this out that easy, but there is nothing much to see. The Powkiddy X39 Pro. To be honest, I have no idea what is pro about it when you're looking at the previous model. Maybe the case is different and they just call it Pro. Specification, but also emulation wise, it's quite a big disappointment. Now, for this price point, there are so many better options out there. In my opinion, the X39 Pro is absolutely a joke compared with the competition nowadays. Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, hit that little bell, and it will be great to see you in the next video.